Hello and welcome back to the Jacksonville History Show. I'm Emily Rutherford-Liska, Executive Director of the Jacksonville Historical Society, and I'm here with Robin Robinson, who's an author of a new book called Southbank Sojourn. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you.
What a wonderful book, just published in 2010. In fact, tell me, I bet you know exactly what day it got to you.
Oh, it was released on October 1st, 2010.
So very recently.
Yes.
The sales have been terrific, I understand.
Yes, they have.
And of course this book, I'm going to read the subtitle as well. We have it up on the screen now. It's called The Southbank Sojourn, a photographic journey through the early days of San Marco and South Jacksonville. Certainly among the most beloved neighborhoods in Jacksonville, Florida. And finally, we have a book on this thanks to you. Tell me about your decision to write this book, very largely this, as you say, photographic journey. Tell me about that.
Well, in 2003, our councilman, Matt Carlucci, notified San Marco Preservation that the South Jacksonville City Hall on Hendricks Avenue was going to be available, and were we interested in renovating it and possibly using it as an office, which we did, and it was renovated and reopened in 2008. And at that time I met so many of the descendants of the city officials from South Jacksonville. They opened their photo albums to me and had lots of stories to tell, and I just felt like it was something that needed to be recorded.
And you did it superbly in this book. And the book has been available. I know residents of the area, longtime residents of Jacksonville have enjoyed this really nostalgic stroll through the city's past, because so much of city history is captured right here. And what's exciting to me is seeing so many photographs I've never seen before, because I have the luxury of seeing so many Jacksonville history photographs, and these are new to me, but very old photographs of our city. In fact, let's take a look at maybe the quintessential, say that for me, the photograph that sort of got you going on the project. It's up now. This is South Jacksonville City Hall.
This is a postcard which was made sometime after 1915. And the thing I love about it is it shows South Jacksonville City Hall and the modes of transportation that were available then, going from horse and buggy to streetcar to automobile. I think it's a good depiction of the times.
And so typical of the times. And that wonderful building, of course, through the decades, went through a real metamorphosis. It didn't always remain in that condition. And when San Marco Preservation Society took the building back in 2003, they began a campaign to restore it to that regal beauty that it showcased there, and that is truly how your organization's brought this back. And you are a past president of San Marco Preservation, housed in this wonderful facility.
Well, that postcard was what we went by to try to be historically accurate in restoring the building.
And give everybody the exact address of this building, where it's located.
It's at 1468 Hendricks Avenue. It's near the railroad tracks, and the old water and power of buildings of South Jacksonville are nearby. It's
an iconic building, and so many people pass it hundreds of times a week or a month and have no clue, but just to look that used to be this South Jacksonville City Hall. And let's talk about South Jacksonville for just a minute. What it really was, when I know it was established 1907.
Yes.
Go ahead and talk about it.
Well, the part that struck me was that I have lived here for 25 years, and I had no idea there was a separate city of South Jacksonville. So when we renovated this hall, I found that there was a city that existed from 1907 to 1932, and I was very struck by the transformation that took place during those 25 years. It started out as a very rural place. I mean, it changed dramatically. Electricity, automobiles, paved roads, telephones. It changed very dramatically during that short period of time.
And when the town of South Jacksonville was founded in 1907, the city of Jacksonville was 90 solid years old, nearing 100 years old. So we were the big city.
Right.
And I know you talked about, let's see, the population was 600.
600 in South Jacksonville.
At the time of the founding.
Yes.
And we're going to take a look at even another photo we have, because this would really sort of change South Jacksonville forever.
Oh, definitely.
The bridge.
Yes.
The first bridge spanning the St. Johns River for vehicular traffic, for automobiles. And this, you taught me so much about this visual that I did not know. Please tell about it.
It's the front page of the Florida Metropolis, July 1st, 1921. It shows Miss South Jacksonville on the right, shaking hands with Miss Jacksonville on the left, commemorating the opening of the St. Johns River Bridge, which is now the Acosta Bridge.
And connecting the two municipalities.
Miss South Jacksonville was Elizabeth White, the daughter of Mayor White from South Jacksonville. Miss Jacksonville was Theodosia Acosta, daughter of St. Elmo Chick Acosta.
For who the bridge today is named, the Acosta Bridge.
Right. So I love this picture. I think this is a great representation.
And that's the part I didn't realize. The women were actually portraying real women in our city's history, the daughters of these two mayors. And of course, the townships would be joined, but eventually, of course, this area would be annexed into Jacksonville, and the year was
1932.
That's right, in
Yes.
32. And at that time, you know, both towns had really taken off in size.
Right.
Maybe we could go on to the next visual, and people will find all of this in your book,
Yes,
plus the
yes.
history too. This is a wonderful image. Go ahead and tell about that.
This I love because it is the officials of South Jacksonville showing off their brand new fire truck in the year 1916. You can see Mayor Belote, he's kind of shown in the top of the picture. The fire chief is there. The sheriff is there with his billy club. And I just think it's a great picture showing that time.
And there they are in front of their beloved City Hall.
Right.
And, you know, at the time, here it is 1916, they had not even had electricity very long in South Jacksonville at the time, only about, what, 4 years at that point. Talk a little bit about this adventure to get electricity.
Well, it was quite exciting the day the electricity was turned on in South Jacksonville. It was in April of 1912. And lo and behold, there was a big wedding that was to take place that afternoon. Doris Thacker was getting married, and so they coordinated the wedding, the time of the wedding, with the turning on of electricity. So all the guests were very anxious to be at the wedding and see this miraculous turning on of electricity in South Jacksonville.
So the bride might have been slightly eclipsed.
Yes, maybe so.
And you said at the time, which was something I didn't know, is they only turned it on for about 2 hours a day.
Right,
starting then.
They had to increase hours as more electric devices, irons, and that type of thing came into being. But in the beginning, it was 2 hours a day.
And and of course, Jacksonville at the time had electric service for a couple of decades easily, a little more than that.
Right.
So and this was typical of outlying areas and getting electricity. After all, Mandarin was something like 1936-ish. So it was a long time in coming to some of what was really thought of in those days as the suburbs.
Yes.
So well, let's take a look at maybe one of the other photos. You've got so many great images. Oh, I love this. So few people realize that because there was so much land available in South Jacksonville at the time, it was used as casually as an airstrip. Tell about where this was. I think people will be shocked.
This airstrip is where the President Baptist Hospital is. This is probably late 1920s, early 1930s. And you can tell the exact location of it because you can see the Park Lane building over in Riverside on the other side of the river in the picture. Robert Overby's father is pictured as he was one of the first pilots to be licensed in the United States. So this was very early years of aviation.
And so you're talking about Overby's of the auto dealership
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yeah. And you know, aviation has such interesting tie-ins with people who were involved in the automobile industry here in Jacksonville, because earlier, a few decades earlier, at the first exhibition of a real heavier-than airplane in Jacksonville, it was a biplane as well.
Right.
Some many decades earlier in 1910, that is when Claude Nolan's dealership and a biplane would actually race, and this was at the Moncrief race track, and actually the Cadillac would win the race. And this is exactly 100 years ago in Jacksonville.
Yes.
And Claude Nolan, to show what a great sport he was in his victory, jumped into that biplane, took a victory lap in the air, and of course in those days that was death-defying.
I was going to say that was quite daring.
So South Jacksonville really had this airstrip by the time that flight had come a long way.
Yes,
at this
yes,
point.
yes.
Let's move on to another image.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell about
This
that.
is the beginnings of the San Marcos Square. Telfair Stockton decided to develop property on the South Bank and had this vision that he wanted to create something similar to Venice in Italy. And so the St. Mark's Square is in Venice, and so he wanted to name this the San Marcos Square. You can see over to the left, quite small, the fountain that was there at that time. This is a gas station that is located where Bayless Park is now. So it's right smack dab in the middle of the square, and it was one of the first things built there.
So if people just look at that fountain and think of it with the lions that have now been added, those 3 lions,
yes,
that is exactly the vantage point from which we look at San Marcos Square. Just remarkable to think of the changes today. And we're in fact going to look at another picture of San Marcos Square some decades later.
Okay.
And it's coming up. If we can pull that up. There you go.
Yes, this was in the 1940s, and it looks a little more familiar, although all the businesses have changed nowadays, and they actually had billboards in the square, which we, of course, don't have now.
But still such a popular neighborhood shopping area. We're going to look at one more image of San Marco. This is probably one people will really recognize with the Old Town Pump today. I'll let you take it from there.
Well, there were many grocery stores in the area, but the center building, which actually was the first building built in the square, is the San Marco building, and it later became known as the Town Pump. That's the name it was known by.
And then you see Lovett's grocery store a little down the way, the theater, and of course the Five and Dime stores. So those are iconic buildings of San Marco, now sadly lost to, the buildings aren't lost to us, but the business is no longer with us. If you'll
okay, this is the St. Johns River in the foreground, and up to the left is Lake Marco. This is a picture of River Road where it intersects with Sorrento.
So a little bit more compact today.
Yes.
More housing today, but beautiful housing.
Yes.
You know, San Marco is such a glorious area. I do want to thank you for writing and creating such a superb piece of history for our city. This is a great book. Tell people where they can get this book.
Oh, it's available at the San Marco bookstore in the square, and it's also available at the Wardroom, which is also in the square.
And those are 2 great places to get it. The Jacksonville Historical Society keeps your book, but it's always fun to take a stroll through San Marco and purchase one of these. It's a great little piece of local history, and not just little. This was a labor of love.
It definitely was.
How long did this take, by the way?
Well, the concept was in the works for 3 years, and the actual writing and putting it together took about 9 months.
And I would be remiss for 2 things. One, if I didn't thank all the families that contributed these amazing photographs.
The Belotes, the Whites, and the Acostas gave lots of material.
And also to your husband, who is a native not only of Jacksonville, but of the South Jacksonville, San Marco area.
Right.
So, and you have adopted this as your home, and we thank you.